What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is our September favourites and it's going to be a little bit different to how the other ones have been. I'm going to trial out a new format for this. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, let's jump into it. So we're not starting off with music to begin with, is the first thing. We're starting off with architecture. And I don't know how many of these things are gonna, how many of these categories are gonna stay in. I'm gonna be working on obviously as I go along, but this month in particular, I would play a little bit of Minecraft. I decided that I would try and build a, like an ancient Greek style villa. So the main thing that I was really loving about trying out some Greek villa builds was the fact that you can get the quartz column blocks. I think that's the major thing about Greek architecture that I love, is the columns. I love the columns. My favourite ones in particular are the Ionic ones. They're the ones that sort of have the ram's head, like the ram's horns at the top. I find the Corinthian ones, which are like sort of the more florally ones, to be a little over the top. I don't want to be too dramatic with my columns. And I find the Doric ones, which just sort of come to a little sort of flared end, to be too basic. I like the little ram's horns. I think they're kind of cool. The next one, sort of in line with buildings and architecture, is furnishings, so stuff that goes inside said buildings. My favourite particular furnishing this month is my memory foam pillow. I have a couple of pillows here, obviously, two of which my ring light is actually set up on. But yeah, they're comfortable. I have decent sleep on them, which is kind of cool. The next one down that I've got something for is film. I watched 2 new films this month. I'm gonna try and keep this specifically, like as many of these categories as possible. I'm gonna try and keep them to new, as much as possible. So 2 new films this month. The one that I'm saying is my favourite of the 2 is Free Guy. I love that movie for multiple reasons. A very minor one will actually come up later in the video, but I love it. Yeah, I feel like if you really want to get into like video game movies, this one is now like top tier, and the next one down would be the Ready Player One, which is not so much about a video game franchise, based on a video game franchise. It's more about sort of the idea of playing games and like the community that it builds, that like gaming builds. I think that's more Ready Player One's message, sort of thing. And also it gave us the term Gunters and but Free Guy is my favourite film of the month. And then the other new one I watched was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I obviously did a review on. No new live action shows this month, but we did obviously watch all of the new episodes that came out of What If. I finished watching Rick and Morty season 5 with its 2-part finale coming out at the very beginning of September. I watched Invincible. I binged all of Star Wars Visions in a night. But top tier favorite animated series for September, Nanatsu no Taizai Season 5 came out. I love this anime. I love it so much, and I'm really hoping that the Four Nights of Apocalypse gets turned into sort of a follow-on series, because I would love to see how that goes. I know there's manga on both of them. I'd love to read the manga, because I know that Nanatsu no Taizai tried to keep very close to the Seven Deadly Sins manga, so I'd love to read to see what the differences were, if any, or if it was a very faithful adaptation. I think that'd be really cool. No new books really. I didn't read this month. I did, as always, listen to a crap ton of music, however, including new albums and singles from in order of release, and I will mention my favourite at the end. Imagine Dragons, Newfound Glory, Rudimental, Mod Sun, Corpse, we love ourselves some Corpse, Escape the Fate, Bad Wolves, State Champs, it's a plural, Andrew WK, Burr, who I've been following on Spotify since I started following her on TikTok, Hawthorne Heights, Nessa Barrett, Skillet, Daughtry, Lil Nas X, Lil Huddy, who I did a song cover of, Spirit Box, Plotting You, Thrice, Shepherd, Dead Sarah, Amity Affliction, Ex-Ambassadors, Alessia Cara, Angels and Airwaves, Bad Flower, Poppy, The Score, Third Eye Blind, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Rabble. I don't know if it's supposed to be Rabble or Rabel or but top of the month, just because I'm such a fanboy. Releasing between Hawthorne Heights and Nessa Barrett was Hot Milk's EP, and it is fire. So good. As far as fashion is concerned, I actually wore this whole setup as my, like, what I wore to work today. And that was, I've got like a tropical sort of button-up shirt. I've got some campus high tops, which is here. And then I've got some like tan coloured chinos, which, yeah. My favourite mantra for the month, thing that I've sort of meditated on, is actually from in this book. Between every couple of pages, you'll get a quote to sort of reflect on. So like this one says, the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions you're asking yourself. But then some of them refer deliberately to journaling, like this one. And I didn't want a mantra that was just about journaling, so it ended up being, I'll see if I can find it. I've even tried making some runes. We're gonna ignore those, but it's this one. I just sort of took out the top line. So my favourite part of this is actually the bottom two lines, which goes, I want to bring out all kinds of things that lie buried deep in my heart. And that's a quote by Anne Frank. And I thought that even if it's just a shortened form of this full quote here, I really like that mantra. I really like that as something to meditate on. You know, like when I'm meditating, what is it that I ultimately want? I want to bring everything that lives within my heart as something that I, genuinely want long term for my life. I want to bring all of those things out. And with that, I want to bring out the kindness and the love and the joy that I know exists in there. That is sometimes, especially in the modern climate, difficult to see in the everyday. I love that as a mantra. Favorite foods, I've actually split into favorite meal and favorite snack. So my favorite meal that I had this month was barbecue pork ribs with charred corn and homemade coleslaw. It's beautiful. My favorite snack, these bad boys. I love the Cool Ranch Doritos. I get it, America. I 100% I get it. Absolutely right. They're amazing. Video game, Pokemon Sword. I played a lot of Pokemon Sword this month. Even after I did my video on it, because once I made my video on it, I still had to do the Crown Tundra part, and I got a friend who plays Shield, and so we were battling as well. So yeah, I'd love to say I played a tabletop game, but we all know how my games night went. If you don't, then check out my Here Slay Games Night video. I explain there that we didn't end up actually playing the game. Right at the beginning of September, I watched quite a few comedy specials, and of those, my favorite comedian of the ones that I watched was Daniel Sloss. I think his comedy is brilliant. Favorite shop that I went to was the Zing in Port Macquarie. It's sort of part of their EV there as well, so I could technically also say EV, but it was more specifically the portions of it that were Zing that excited me, which was less the video game aspect and more the associated merchandise part. There were a lot of things that I looked at and I was like, oh, I'd like that, I'd like that, I'd like that. I mean, the shirt and the socks that I got for my Ray cosplay are kind of more the Zing side of things. Even though you can pick them up at an EV, they are still sort of more that Zing sort of part. But no, there was a whole range of board games that you would only be able to get at Zing. If you go into a regular EV, they don't really sell a huge range of board games. There was a bunch of D&D stuff, a whole heap of like bags and wallets and that sort of thing. Things that aren't really an EV Games thing to sell. So it was definitely sort of the Zing portion. As far as travel's concerned, I went to Port Macquarie and Foster. Obviously Port Macquarie was the more eventful one. My favourite beauty product, because I use those too, was this. This was very helpful, especially since I need to look professional for work, and that flopping around everywhere wasn't gonna fly. Because we've got to remember that to begin with, I was working in a cafe where you don't really want hairs falling in someone's coffee or their food, so having it sort of gelled back, even if it's just with the spray, which is just easier to use in the morning. yeah. And then when I started working in the shop instead, it was more just sort of trying to look professional, and not just have my luscious mop being all over the place. So as much as I hate how it feels right now, because the spray's sort of worn off and it's just gross and needs to be washed tomorrow, that was my favourite beauty product. My favourite influencer, now these influencers could be off TikTok, they could be off Instagram, they could be off Twitch, YouTube, whatever. My favourite was, I watched a lot of YouTube videos of streamers, but I also watched in particular Pokemon's vlogs. So I think she takes the cake here. I did also sort of, during the month, subscribe to Jacksepticeye. I've been slowly making my rounds of like all of the people that I've seen play Among Us with Toast, because I originally got introduced to sort of their whole sort of friend circle through his videos that originally got suggested to me on Facebook. But I'm also putting Pokemon here because just like a little bit of a crush. And not just because she's as physically attractive as she is, but also because she's quite smart, she's very funny, there's a whole list of things. I'm not going to gush too much, but I think she's something a little bit special. And, you know, even if I only got to meet her, that would still be enough. Like, I would try not to geek out too hard, but I probably would geek out. And get real shy and nervous. My favourite bit of tech, or my favourite app for the month, definitely Canva. I gave it a specific shout out during my social media thing, so you know that it was the most helpful thing this month. In particular, because during the month I actually added a couple of extra. So when I plan my things out, I've got, like, you know, my pop culture video, and I've got my full moon video, and I've got my Chinese zodiac horoscope video, and there's, you know, my resolutions, my favourites, my song covers, blah blah blah. And they've all got a set thumbnail that they have, so that when you hop on, you can look at it and you go, okay, cool, this one's a games night video because it's got the games night thumbnail. During the month, I actually added 2 new sort of video types, one of them being a social media one, and another being the like manifestations one at the beginning, and like the new age metaphysical videos. And so Canva was, you know, I had to create 2 new, completely new, completely visually different thumbnails for those videos. So Canva was very helpful. And then last but not least, my favourite household gadget. As I mentioned before, I now work in a little sort of homewares store. And one afternoon I bought myself a little shot measuring glass, which is very helpful. I also double checked that a shot is about 40 mils. And so I'm still going to sort of go from, you know, about sort of 25-30 mils when I'm putting my shots in, because I'm not supposed to drink excessively. So I'm going to be less than careful, sorry, more than careful with the amount of alcohol that I'm putting in with my mixes for a drink. That way, if I wanted to, I could have a few drinks with the total alcohol content still only equaling at best 2 standards. So having the actual measuring glass to measure that out with is very helpful. I also bought myself one of those little like jar key things where you like, I mean, it's not that I can't twist the lids, it's just a lot easier to pull the tool out and just done. Knowing that they existed and not knowing where ours was in the house, there were times where, like within the last year, where I couldn't be bothered, or like I had slippery hands or something, so I'd just get out a little knife and I'd do exactly the same thing and just jimmy the can open. So I bought myself a jar opener as well. Definitely the shot measuring glass was my favourite. And that's it for this video. We will finish it off with our last question of the day for September. Question 29. In the last 12 months, how have I grown as a person? How did I achieve this, and what can I learn from it? In the last 12 months, I have had a whirlwind of a ride where it went from never thinking I would ever be able to get to outdoors, and so deciding, well, you know what, let's go with, you know, like I'm already on this fitness journey, let's just turn that into a job, and we'll try and pursue that, to being on set for an after shoot and being able to talk to some of the staff about like, hey, so like I've wanted to come here for years, but I can't afford it. Like the course, I know I can put that on like fee help and stuff, and that doesn't, even though it's living in Sydney that I can't afford. What ways can I work around this? To now having applied, to be applying for scholarships, to be looking for housing, to be looking for work, and to actively be like, this is not only a possibility, but I am manifesting this to happen. And I think the real takeaway there is to never truly dismiss that thing that really ignites that fire of passion inside you. Because the second you try to dismiss it and be like, that's not achievable, you know, like, I mean, for me, it ended up being the second I dismissed it and was like, that's never gonna happen. It was like, spat in my face. It was like, isn't it? Really? But I don't think that that's going to be the case for everybody. So, you know, sticking with it, and, you know, because I mean, even with doing PT stuff, I was like, okay, I can do this for a while, you know, sort of try and build up my range as a, you know, my client base and stuff. Maybe at some point, I'll, you know, my friend will be making a film, be like, hey, do you mind making a workout program for this actor so that they can get into this particular shape, for this, you know, for this film. This is the shape I want them in, etc., etc. And then turning that into being an actor's personal trainer, progressing that into stunt and fight choreography, progressing that into actually working on set, maybe it's like a stuntman myself, and then working my way, like there was still that element of like, I can at some point later on down the road turn this into still working in film. So it's never truly giving up on that thing that ignites fire in your soul. because if that's really what your passion is, then I think in order to answer the question of what does life mean, life means answering that fire, letting it light the way to what has already been written as your destiny for this lifetime. Your role is to do that thing, because that thing, however big it might be, will end up being the thing that inspires someone, or might, produce something that inspires someone to go on and do something greater. And that, I think, is really it. Like we need, in the present, need to be the ones that inspire the future to be better than we were, to go further than we have. In particular with things, like overcoming prejudices and, things like progressing sciences to a point where the Earth isn't dying would be great. And that may, even if it's like at the moment this channel has like 13 subscribers, even if it's something this small, I don't know who's gonna see this. I don't know who's gonna watch this far. But even if you right now are the only one that's gotten this far in this video still might be that thing, and me talking about this right now might still be the thing that encourages you to continue following that dream, and that dream may end up changing the course of history. You don't know yet. So do it. Go for it. That's what your life is for. Following that particular thing, doing that thing you dreamt of doing, because you might make the most positive impact on the world for the last 100 years. And that's really exciting to think about. So that's what I've learned. Not to get too philosophical about it though. But yeah, full list of my favorites and this question in the description down below. If you would like to, please answer that question in the comments down below. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button and that notification bell as well if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. If you enjoy this one, please give it a big old thumbs up, and until next time, keep your head screwed on.